Welcome to the Realtor Who Wines Podcast. I'm Rashelle Newmyer, your hostess with the mostest, a student of life, a connector, a passionate wine enthusiast, and your local favorite guide. Join me as we explore the vibrant Pacific Northwest, savor the finest wines, and champion the spirit of entrepreneurship. Each episode, I'll sit down with inspiring guests, supporting business ownership, and uncovering the stories that make this community unique. So grab a glass of wine, settle in, and let's embark on a journey of discovery and connection together. Cheers! This is my first episode
for season 2.
Yeah.
Am I going to be the first one, or is it?
There's one episode on March 25th. That's me just talking about recapping of season 1 and what to expect of season 2.
Yeah.
But you'll be my first guest episode.
Whoa, dude, that's high profile.
Get ready to entertain everyone.
Oh man.
Yeah, you're like, I need a few more sips before we get started.
I'm gonna get around the mic to drink my whiskey.
It is a skill set to learn how to drink around the mic.
It's a skill set I'm willing to learn.
Well, I am very honored that you have me here in front of your wall of golden girls. Thank you so much. Risse, cheers to you.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Thank you for being on the Realtor Who Wines. Risse and I are not drinking wine today, though, because we are both bourbon gals and whiskey gals. And so we thought it would be fitting to have a local bourbon.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's technically whiskey. American whiskey finished in Oregon Pinot Noir cask.
See? It's fitting. We
yes,
can not have
100%.
That.
From Bull Run Distillery.
Yeah.
They are located in Portland, just outside the Pearl District, and then also in Carlton. They have tasting rooms that you can taste all of their spirits, and then as well as buy bottles. So definitely check them out, because this is delicious.
It is delicious.
Will you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I am Risse Davis. And I am a mortgage advisor and branch manager of our cute little office here in Southeast Portland of American Pacific Mortgage.
And what, well, I don't want to say, what year did you get started? But what got you into mortgage?
You know, like Bob Ross would say, it was a happy little accident.
Yeah.
I could go into the story really deeply, but to try to do high level, I was a personal trainer for like the first 12 years of my adult life, and I always worked with special needs populations for the most part. So people that were recovering from surgery or cancer, diabetics, things like that, Parkinson's disease, you name it, I've worked with somebody. And so I decided at one point that I wanted to go back and get my master's degree in health psychology. And in order to do that, I stopped personal training and I took a summer job as a receptionist at a mortgage company.
Nice.
And here I am 17 years later.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Here.
What about that summer job like piqued your interest? Like what did you see in the office or kind of over here that made you think, I'm kind of interested in that?
I mean, it was steady pay Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
That was what
it was. As somebody who'd been a personal trainer for 12 years and was, at the gym at 4:30 in the morning and 9 o'clock at night, I knew that wasn't sustainable to try to do that and go get my master's degree. And so I thought, well, I just need something that's steady, that I have my evenings, my weekends, I can work around it.
Totally.
And then I literally never even went and got my master's degree.
You're like, who needs it?
I am.
That's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
What was your journey throughout your career? What does that look like? The different, because forgive me, I don't know all the different roles within mortgage.
Yeah.
The mortgage role.
So
yes, please, because I know I'm not the only one out there that's like, what exactly does everybody do?
Yeah. So I started as the receptionist, which is a pretty self-explanatory title. But as part of that role, I also assisted the transaction coordinators. So the transaction coordinators are the unsung heroes of mortgage. They are literally the ones that, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. They're the ones that get shit done. And so I was kind of the, little lackey to them, that if they needed anything from, back in the day when we were still using file folders, I would put together file folders for them and the dividers and everything. But then also following up on employment verifications and things like that. And, the manager at the time, shout out to Jeff Strode, told me that once you start in mortgage, you don't ever get out. He said it's like the firm, that once you're there, you can't get out. And I used to
he didn't lie.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm not in mortgage. I work in health. And,
yeah.
So I went from receptionist / TC assistant, and I really liked that transaction coordinator role because it's very detail oriented.
Sure.
And it spoke to me and it sounded interesting. And again, throughout this time, I still kept thinking I was going to go back and get my master's degree, but I was like, well, at least I'll make a little bit more money as a transaction coordinator versus a receptionist. So I was transaction coordinator for a few years, and then got pulled into being a licensed assistant. So that was, the loan officer, the role that I have now. I was working with a handful of loan officers as their assistant, and I really liked that because then you got to actually interact with the clients.
Sure.
And that's what I had missed a lot in the transaction coordinator role, coming from being a personal trainer and having, really, really, some of my best friends were former personal training clients of mine. So coming from having that really deep relationship with clients to being behind the scenes was really hard. So I liked the loan officer assistant role that I got to, have a little bit more interaction with clients, but not as much responsibility as being a loan officer. And then, so here's where it got interesting. So 2016, I joined the team of the top loan officer in our company in the country. And he was fantastic. I really loved working with him. There was the 3 of us on the team, 2 transaction coordinators, and then Doug as the loan officer. We flowed so well. It was such a wonderful, team effort. We all were, maybe had too much work ethic where we were working evenings and weekends and stuff even back then. But then Doug in 2018 came to Melissa and me, Melissa and I have worked together since 2009, and said that he was talking about retiring in a few years and wanted to know if one of us would want to take over. And Doug, having the business that he had, he could have sold his business for a lot of money.
Which a lot of lenders and realtors do that. They sell their book of business when they retire.
And he could have easily done that. But part of the reason why I loved working with Doug is because he was like me, that he did it because he really enjoyed working with clients and helping people. And so that wasn't the way that he was going to go out. So he sat us down and said, I'd like it if one of you would want to take it over. And Melissa looked at me and said, Risse would do it.
Thanks, Melissa.
I was like, and it was so funny because I think that was the moment that I was like, I might work in mortgage. I think this might be a commitment.
And then Jeff pops back in your head.
Right,
You're
exactly.
never getting out.
You never leave. Struggle will always be there for that. So then I took over for Doug, and that is a whole episode of a podcast on its own.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And now, do you own this office, or are you leasing this office? Like the team works here underneath you?
Yeah. So we lease through our company. So we work for American Pacific Mortgage. It's an independent mortgage bank is what it's called. So all we do is mortgage. We're not a broker. We do it all in-house. And then I leased this office space because for 14 years, my office was in Clackamas, and nobody wanted to come see me in Clackamas. The majority of my clientele...
No offense, Clackamas.
Right? No, love you, Clackamas. I do, but nobody wanted to... Everybody thought it was so far away. Majority of my clientele is Northeast, Southeast Portland. And so I decided that it was time to move my office over here. And now I have people come in and see me all the time. And
nice.
It's so fantastic.
Yeah. When you have a great office space too.
Yes, it's very fun. It's technically a retail space. And so we took over this spot, and at some point you have to pan out and see, but we've got just windows, and we've got this huge garage door that we can open up in the summertime. And it's definitely not your typical mortgage office vibe, which is what I like, because I'm not your typical mortgage officer.
I would agree with that. Yeah. And you host events here and stuff too for your clients, so it's fun to roll up the doors and expand the space a little bit. And
we've done some really fun events. We did a dog focused event for 4th of July where we got to give all the dogs calming treats and lavender scented bandanas and stuff. So it's something that you couldn't do in a typical office space.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Especially if you're sharing a lot of lenders and realtors have office space inside of like a corporate office space where it's like multiple businesses are in one location. So it's really hard to have events at like those types of buildings.
Yeah. When I was looking for an office space, my two biggest things was that I needed at least one window that opened, which technically I have a garage door that opens, so I'll take it.
Challenge accepted. Exactly. I see your window.
I see your window.
And I you a garage door. Literally.
Huge garage door. And then also I wanted to have control over my own HVAC, and I do. I've got 2 HVAC systems in here, so I can make one side warm and one side cool if I want to. So,
nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
What, talking about lending and like home buying and all of that stuff, what are some questions that have popped up more recently for you from clients?
I mean, I think, and this won't be a surprise, but the biggest focus is on interest rates. And, interest rates are a lot lower now than they've been for the last couple of years. They're quite a bit lower.
Yeah.
But it's still, a lot of clients are paralyzed because they're in a 2.5% or 3% interest rate, and they feel like they're stuck because of that. And it's, I've talked to clients who want to get a divorce and they're not divorcing because they don't want to deal with losing that interest rate,
or they want like a bigger space or a smaller space
or a different neighborhood or all of these different
shorter
things,
commute.
And so my biggest question that people come to me is like, well, how can I afford this when I have this? And I think people would be really surprised the combination of how much equity we all have in our houses now because of the appreciation we've seen the last few years. Portland specifically has seen above average appreciation, which is good and bad. But it means a lot of people have a lot of equity in their house that they don't realize that they can take that and roll it over into a new house and have a really similar payment. I have a client coming in later this afternoon who is selling her house, and she was convinced that her new mortgage was going to be higher than her current mortgage. But because she's going to have so much to put down, her payment's going to be lower than it is right now by like $300, but still it's lower. And
lower is lower.
Yeah, she's able to move into the neighborhood that she wants to.
And some people would move, I have found, if they could even keep their payment about the same.
About the same, yeah.
Why the reasons they want to move is a lot of it is commute. Because now, I mean, you know this, but like during the COVID era, and all the businesses were shut down or people were allowed to work remote, people started moving out of like the Portland metro and more to the suburbs. Well, now offices are saying, hey, the remote stuff isn't really happening anymore. We want you in the office like 3 days a week.
Right, yeah.
Well, now even if you're only commuting 3 days a week, those 3 days a week are still very long days because all of the essential or non-essential traffic is back.
Right.
And so they're like, well, I'm losing like 2 hours with my family every day commuting into the city. So now they want to move back towards the city, but then they feel like they can't, but they would in a second if their payment would even be the same.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people too, at least in my clientele, what I've experienced is they might have moved away a little bit for the reasons that you said, but then they realize not just the commute, but they miss the community. They miss being a little bit closer, and they miss being able to, my house isn't especially walkable. I live in Milwaukee, but within a 15 to 20 minute drive, I've got countless restaurants and bars and grocery stores and everything. And so I think that some people just kind of miss the community and the convenience of living a little bit closer. One thing that I think is really overlooked is that people have also, times have been tough the last few years, and people have racked up a lot of credit card debt and really high interest credit card debt. And not to go into like a whole diatribe about finances, but credit card interest is compounded daily. And so what that means is like literally every single day, your higher balance on your credit card is now what the interest is based off of. So it gets to be really hard to get out from under credit card debt. And what people don't realize is if they have a lot of equity in their house, they can either refinance or sell, use their proceeds to pay off their credit card debt. And might have a slightly smaller down payment, but overall their monthly output's going to be a lot lower, and it's going to be just so much more manageable. It's not going to snowball.
Well, and even if your mortgage is a little bit higher, now that you're not paying on those credit cards, you'll also see that mortgage payment back in equity versus credit cards. You're not going to see that back. So that's a great way to go too.
I've got a client right now that I'm refinancing from an adjustable rate at like 4.5%, and we're refinancing to a higher rate, but we're lowering their monthly output by $2,000 a month. by paying off credit cards. Yeah.
That's huge.
That's life-changing for a family.
Completely.
They have 5 kids.
Completely.
Life-changing.
As long as you don't put it back on the credit card.
Exactly. Oh, we've had the conversation.
Yeah. Because that happens too. Like you get that debt paid off and then it easily comes right back.
Yeah. I have a couple clients that are kind of serial refinancers for that reason, but I try really hard to, be that counselor for them to the level that I can be. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial counselor, but to look at the big picture with clients.
Yeah. But you see numbers a lot too. Yes. That is one thing I always talk about with clients is even if a client's like, oh, I'm thinking about buying, but probably not for a year or two. I have some debt to pay off. My instant response is always, have you talked to a lender? Yep. Or do you want to be connected with a lender? Yeah. Because I know you'll walk them through the process of what they should pay off, what they should focus on. Because there is some misconception sometimes, like they think they have to have zero debt to buy. And that's not the case. And some debt is considered good debt, especially when applying for a home loan, because it shows that you're can make payments and and reliable and all that stuff. Will you speak to that a little bit on why someone should meet with you, even if they're not planning to buy for a year or two?
Oh, absolutely. That's the best time to come talk to somebody. Yeah. I mean, like you said, there's so many misconceptions out there, and especially now, I mean, TikTok and Instagram and all of the influencers that, some of them I think are really well-meaning, but every single person is different. Every single situation is different. And so unless
every market's different too.
Every market, I mean, even in Portland, like I say, we have many markets, like from neighborhood to neighborhood, it can be completely different.
Yeah.
And so talking to somebody that can actually look at your circumstance, not what your dad told you or, what your best friend did, but actually look at your numbers. The amount of times that I've had clients tell me, I had no idea that I actually could buy a house. Like I really thought I could never
I hear that all
do
the time.
it, or I could never sell and move, or, whatever it is. And it doesn't cost any money to talk with a lender. Yeah. You sit down and you can have multiple conversations and do a deep dive into it. And even if it's not the right time, it's not always the right time.
I have had pushback when I've said like, oh, you should meet with a lender. And they're like, I don't want my credit pulled right now. I'm like, she doesn't have to pull your credit to even have an initial numbers conversation with you. Yeah. And I also think everybody's different, obviously, especially when it comes to real estate and lending. But you and I both come from the same point of we want to serve in the best way that we can. And so like talking to me or talking to you, our end game is not like, how do I get you in a house tomorrow, whether it benefits me or only benefits me and not you. No, I don't. I want to see you in a house because I believe in home ownership and I believe everybody should have the right to home ownership. But I want it to be on your terms and what makes sense for your family and is not going to put your family in a weird position later. And if that means you can't buy a house for 5 years, awesome. I'll be here in 5 years. Yeah. And in the meantime, I can be a resource for you and still your friend, PS. Yeah. But like, you're the same way with lending. It's like, no, let me just have the conversation with you just to give you some ideas of what you should be working on. Like you wouldn't just go to the gym and start lifting weights without like doing a little bit of research or maybe doing the one free consultation with the guy at the gym, right? To make sure you're like picking stuff up, right? Yeah. This should be no different. Like take up the free consultation, take up the free conversation. Yeah. Even if in the long run you're going to buy, let's say you end up moving to Washington and you're not going to, well, are you licensed in Washington? You are. Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit different for lenders. I'm licensed in 7 or 8 states now, even though most of my clients are right here, but as you know, I'll go get licensed in a state if I've got a client that wants to move there or that, my mom's buying in, Arizona. I'm like, okay, well, it's not that hard for me to go get licensed there. It's all pretty similar.
Yeah. But like, there's no obligation. I guess where I was trying to go with that is there's no obligation or expectation. Like you absolutely have to work with us just because you had a conversation with us.
No.
We like being a resource.
Obviously, you and I work similarly. That's why we're friends and work together. And not every lender and not every realtor will be the same way.
Right.
But definitely, like, I would always rather have a conversation with a client and be honest with them and say, now's not a good time to buy, but here's the things that you need to do, because otherwise the time's going to pass anyway. You might as well be working on a goal of getting into home ownership. And I mean, home ownership is the thing that leads to generational wealth. It's, if you look back in the course of history, stability and emotional stability and mental stability and financial stability. And it's not without its stresses, don't get me wrong, but like that's why I'm still in mortgage, because I got to see how I can truly impact people's, like, it sounds cheesy, but it's very true. Like I can see the actual impact on people's lives and their future, their children's lives. Like
absolutely,
it's a huge benefit. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's very humbling and rewarding to be a part of people's big moments. And purchasing a home is like a life goal a lot of people have. And to be just a little small glimpse of that journey is like so filling. That's why I like it. I mean, both of our jobs can be super stressful because it is such a big moment in someone's life and you're trying to do everything you can to like help them. And there's lots of late nights, or sometimes you spend 3 hours putting out a fire they never even knew existed, which is our job.
Exactly.
We don't need kudos for that, but there is so much going on behind the scenes. But when you get to hand over those keys or say like, congratulations, we funded and closed, just their pure joy and like excitement and energy is like what keeps thinking about moving to Oregon. Don't just Google it. Talk to someone who lives it. I help people relocate smoothly and confidently. Reach out and let's talk about your next move and make sure it makes sense for you. What keeps those hard days okay?
I had a run, I think it was last summer, where I was definitely, we all had a rough couple years in the market, and I was maybe lacking a little bit of motivation at the time. Maybe I was a little bit burnt out. But I had 3 clients within a month time span that I closed. 2 of them were a purchase. One of them was a refinance. And they all handmade me thank you gifts.
Oh,
they're all here.
Those are the best.
A vase over there, like a platter over there, and then another hanging vase over here. And I was like, I mean, literally like tears. I was like, this is like, these people appreciated what I did so much that they physically made me something. And, they're all artists. That's what they do, but still. Yeah. And that was a good motivator for me to realize, like, we're really affecting people's lives.
I know it's very sweet and I'm always very appreciative, but it's also a little awkward when you show up with a closing gift and they have a gift for you. And then you're just like exchanging presents. Gifts. But then at the same time, you're like, oh, you bought me something too. Like, thanks. I was just doing my job. I mean, I care obviously immensely, but it's always like interesting when you're like, but I got you something.
I show up with their closing gift to signing, and then they'd give me one. But,
What are some myths that clients here? You mentioned earlier, like social media and some of the influencers and things like that. What are some myths that are out there in the marketplace that you'd like to debunk for people?
I mean, countless myths, and if I had thought about it in advance, I probably could have given you a list, but I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that the lowest interest rate should be your goal. And that is a really good way to cost yourself a lot of money in the long run. Yeah. When I do talk to clients who are talking to multiple lenders, which they should, I mean, you should certainly talk to just like multiple realtors, multiple insurance companies. Totally. But I always tell them, don't shop rates. Interest rates can change from day to day, and my rate might be lower today and it might not be lower tomorrow. Like that's just how the market is. You need to be talking to somebody that's actually looking at your overall financial picture and strategizing with you. Because some people come in and, obviously one of the biggest myths is I need 20% down. I think that thankfully that's a pretty common knowledge now that it's not necessary. Yeah. But sometimes I have clients who have 20% down, but that's not the best option for them. It's not going to get them the best interest rate. It's not going to get them the best, long-term investment. And
sometimes if you have that much to put down, maybe just buying your own 2-1 buy down.
Right. Too. Yeah. There's a lot of different options for that. Exactly. Like I had a client over the weekend that was wanting to make an offer, and they'd been pre-approved with one of the local credit unions. I won't name names. And of course they couldn't get a hold of anybody at the credit union because it was Saturday afternoon. Yeah. I might have been at the hospital with my best friend in the waiting room trying to pre-approve this person on Saturday. But I told them, I said, I know my interest rate, my normal interest rate won't be as low as this credit union. This credit union historically has lower rates than anybody. But I bet you I have strategies that are going to save you a lot more money, and nobody at that credit union is going to sit down with you and strategize with you. Yeah. And I am strategizing with them, and I am saving them a lot of money with our different, with the buy down, but with other things that we're doing. that they would just never have gotten if they,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't want to disparage credit unions or big banks, but you're not going to get the same kind of strategy if you work with one of them.
Well, and how I explain it to clients, because sometimes they'll say to me when I'm like, oh, do you have a lender? And they're like, no, but I'll probably just go to my bank, blah, 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 like where they do their banking. And I always, like what you just said, I do encourage you to have conversations with multiple lenders and multiple realtors just to make sure you find the right fit for you and all of that stuff. But I do caution them when you talk to your bank or said credit union or whatever, keep in mind they're in the business of banking. They're not necessarily in the business of mortgages.
Right.
They added that subpar to accommodate their clients, but that's not their bread and butter.
It's not.
So although they offer it, it doesn't mean, and they might be a great bank for banking.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're the best place to get your home loan. So just still talk to your bank if it makes you feel better and you just want to know what your bank offers, but also talk to somebody like Risse or another lender that somebody recommends to you, because it is interesting to know the different, like you would probably present multiple programs like the Oregon Home Bond and all these other things. And I haven't heard banks doing that as much because they're not as well versed in it. And again, no offense to banks, but your bread and butter is banking. Totally. You're good at banking.
Yeah. And
that's your
they
thing.
hire people that do banking and they clock in and they clock out. And there's nothing wrong with that business model for banking.
Right.
You know, I'm a member of a credit union, have been for 17 years. I love them. I've, you know, got multiple car loans and whatnot through them, but you know, having a actual local person that you can talk to and
on nights and weekends, which is when real estate transactions really do take place.
When the magic happens.
Yeah.
And you know, like a client this weekend, different client was looking at a house and they were wanting to offer below the list price. Because again, we have micro markets here. And so some of them are super competitive and some of them there's some room for negotiation. And they wanted to offer below the list price. And I was like, or we can get a seller credit for that same amount. And here's why that's going to benefit your bottom line so much better. And that's not something that a credit union or a bank would ever, they would have just sent them a pre-approval letter and said, here you go, make an offer. Like, so,
yeah.
Sorry, credit unions and banks.
We don't dislike you by any means.
No, great.
Yeah. But
for what you are.
Absolutely. Yes. Speaking to like down payments and stuff, and I know it varies from person to person, but on average, what is for anyone out there listening, trying to get a rough idea of what kind of down payment they should be saving for? Are you seeing more like 3.5%, 5%? Like what percentages are you seeing?
So technically you don't need to have a down payment.
That's
there
true.
are down payment assistance programs out there. I will say, if you can come up with a down payment and there's a way to do so that makes sense for you, you're typically going to get better loan terms than if you do a down payment assistance program. But they're out there and they're there for a reason. They get you into the house. They get you starting earning equity. It's a fantastic thing if that's the only option. In general, for a first-time home buyer, 3 to 3.5% down. So if we're doing conventional loan versus a government loan, 3 or 3.5%. And then from there, I mean, you know, very few people that haven't owned homes before or don't have parents that are gifting them money, very few people have 20% down. So we just look at the options between 3, 5, 10 and just see what makes the most sense.
Yeah. And then something else that like clients don't think about that I just want to put out there, and this is normally something I talk about in like my first like consultation with anybody thinking about buying or selling, is the difference between a down payment and closing costs.
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't talk to them about that, and that there's a difference. So you'll have your down payment and then separately you'll also need your closing costs.
And within those closing costs, you've got your closing costs, you've got your prepaid items, and then potentially paying points for your interest rate. So there's a whole breakdown there. And that is why I love what I do, is I am all about educating my clients. Like they don't get that. The amount of times I've had clients that have talked to a bank or a credit union or even another local lender, and then they come to me for our initial consultation. And, you know, I try not to overwhelm them with information, but there's stuff that they need to know, like down payment plus closing costs and what that means. The amount of times that they've been like, nobody ever told me that before. It drives me bananas.
Or for the down payment assistance, a lot of times those clients also don't realize they still need closing costs a lot of times. You can ask sellers to pay closing costs and things like that, but you still normally have to bring some money to the table, whether it's the earnest money, you'll need money for inspections. Sometimes you're paying your buyer's agent fees. Sometimes you're asking the sellers to pay it. So These are all examples of why having conversations ahead of time will really benefit you and help you have a more smooth transaction versus a little bit bumpier.
Right. Yeah.
For those that are listening that are like really green on the whole mortgage side of things, can you explain a little bit about the differences between a conventional loan versus an FHA or USDA? Like not like in great detail, but just a high level.
Yeah. So what I usually talk with clients about is there's really 5 main categories of loan types. There's conventional loans, FHA, VA, USDA, and then jumbo, which is a real technical term there.
Jumbo's like the fun cousin or something.
Right.
Like, here comes Jumbo.
Come down. So conventional loans, they're backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which means that all lenders have to underwrite. They have to meet the guidelines that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac set. Some lenders have what are called overlays, so additional requirements. We fortunately have very few. So conventional loans tend to be best for people who have higher credit scores, versus an FHA loan is backed by HUD, and it's touted as a first-time home buyer loan, but you don't have to be a first-time home buyer, but it's just a little bit more forgiving. So people who've had credit history, like bankruptcies or foreclosures, might qualify on an FHA when they don't on a conventional. Or if your credit score is below like 700, you might get a better interest rate and loan terms with FHA than conventional.
One thing I want to point out really quick is a myth that I know that you can debunk right now is what is considered a first-time home buyer. Because some people think it's only if you've never, ever purchased a home ever in your life.
Question. No, and it's a very strict definition is that you can't have owned a home, which includes being on title to a house that doesn't have a mortgage within the most recent 3 years. Yeah. So the only time that really tends to be a hiccup is like sometimes people are like on title to like a parent's house for like planning purposes, and that can become a little bit of a hiccup.
Yeah. But I wanted to put that out there because we help a lot of women transition out of marriages and things like that. And they assume they won't be considered a first-time home buyer again. And it's like, no, actually, you haven't been on a mortgage or a title in 3 years. So you now qualify for all those first-time home buyer programs. Yeah,
so. 3 years. That said, another kind of myth that I will try to debunk is there's not really as many quote-unquote first-time homebuyer programs as there used to be. After the crash in 2008, there were quite a few because they were trying to stimulate the housing economy. So there were quite a few different programs out there. But now, because the housing economy is very stimulated, there are definitely still some. But for the most part, like if a client comes to me, even if they've never owned a house, but they have good credit and they've got at least 3% down, we're probably going to do just a regular conventional loan.
Yeah, because it'll be lesser fees and things like
better
that.
Terms. Yeah. But there are still some, but it's one of the first questions that people ask, and it's a hard thing to have to kind of shoot them down and be like, well, yeah, there are first-time homebuyer programs, but most of them have higher fees or a higher rate, or they have income caps, and you're going to be over the income cap. So, yeah, but we still look at it. We always look at it. Yeah. So, and none of like within conventional, within FHA, there are options for first-time home buyers and not. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. Yeah. And then same thing with USDA and VA. Those are two other government-backed loans. So USDA is backed by USDA, VA loans are backed by VA, and those both have their place. And I love working with veterans. It's a little bit hard that VA loans have a little bit of a bad rap because there's additional requirements for the property, but really very few properties wouldn't meet it. So
I know a lot of people ask me, like, especially when I meet with sellers and they're first time sellers, so like they're selling their the first property they ever purchased, and so they're like, well, is there a reason I shouldn't? Because you always ask, like, are you open to an FHA, a conventional cash, seller financing? We go through all the things. And then they always are like, should I not be open to VA? And I was like, I'm the worst to ask this because I will always support the military in every way that I can. So I'm always like, of course you should be open to VA, but then you do have to explain the few things that the inspections are a little bit more critical.
Right.
The appraisal's a little bit more critical because the VA has certain things that it has to meet in order to qualify for the VA loan.
Yeah.
So that is how it gets a bad rep. And there is a little bit more closing costs tied to it.
Right.
But it's like so hard to like not support our troops over those things when, to your point, most houses pass in flying colors. Like there's no extra things.
I mean, especially in Portland proper and the surrounding areas. It's not like we have a bunch of houses that are, 150 years old. We have some. You listed one that was 18 something. Didn't you have a house that was like 1820 or something like that?
It was like, it had to be one of the first houses in Portland.
Right.
In fact, well, it was 1903.
Was it 1903? Maybe that's what it was. Maybe
It was something like that.
I just remember looking at it and being like, did she mean
someone.
2003?
Yeah. Well, and you weren't the only one. I had a few realtors that challenged them. Or like, I think you typoed this. And I was like, I didn't.
Yeah, it really
and they're like, call the
was.
City of Portland. It's a typo. It's City of Portland. I was like, it's not.
It's not. It really
And I
is
actually
something.
did spend probably 15 hours researching with the county and the city to triple verify.
See, these are the things that people don't realize that realtors
just to appease a handful of realtors.
Right.
And they ended up not writing. But now, if anybody has questions about this property, I'm your girl.
You know.
I know everything about this property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Although I could talk mortgages with you all day, as many of you have heard or have seen, you are a wealth of knowledge and obviously care a lot about this business. Your home might be worth more than you think. Curious what your equity looks like? I'll run the numbers for you. No pressure, just clarity. Please reach out anytime. Let's look at this together. Yes, you're wonderful. But I would love to talk about something a little bit less worky and a little bit more funny, just because
I like it. I'm very funny. Let's do it.
Yes. Yes. You and I both love whiskey and bourbon. That's one thing we bonded over instantly.
Right away. Yeah.
Yes. Talk a little bit about your journey with whiskey and bourbon. Like, did you always like whiskey and bourbon, or did you kind of stumble into it?
No. Yeah. I mean, funny origin story. Like, I was always a wine girl. Like literally the first day that I took my first communion. So how old are you when you do that? Like 13 years old?
Yeah.
And they give me a little plastic cup of red wine and I tasted that and I was like,
Delicious.
what was that? That was really good.
Yeah.
So I've been a red wine wino since, before it was legal for me to be a wino. And so red wine, I was a gin and tonic girl. I was never like a cocktail person growing up or, in my 20s and 30s. And then we went to Kennedy School for St. Patrick's Day in 2012 and did a Scotch tasting. And I could not tell you who the Scotch was. That makes me feel bad. I have no idea what the Scotches were that we tasted. But back then I remember thinking, actually, this is pretty good. I
really?
like this. Yeah.
It took me a minute to be able to drink Scotch. Scotch has a lot more peat.
Yeah. And I love peat. I love smoky. I like it. Slap me in the face with the smoke. It's fantastic. So we did that, but then we also, my brother was with us and we started drinking 7 and 7s. And so that's Seagram's 7. And then we transitioned to Jameson. And so summer of 2012 was my Jameson summer. I just went around with Jameson over ice.
There's
all
YouTube
the
videos
time.
out there.
Yeah, like it was just,
Reese gone wild.
Exactly.
Jameson summer.
I've got a couple stories there. Jameson in a solo cup can be really dangerous.
Oh my gosh, hilarious.
Classy.
That's the name of your memoir.
Right.
Jameson in a solo cup.
And I don't know, from there it snowballed. And, my husband actually had never drank alcohol before he and I started dating.
Yeah.
He was 27 years old. And
I love this story.
and so I started him on wine when we first started dating. And then he and I discovered whiskey together. And it's just, I just love whiskey so much. I love bourbon. I love Scotch. I love peaty. I don't like Canadian whiskey. Sorry, Pendleton and similar ones. There's a few Irish ones. Like, I don't remember last time I had Jameson. That's funny. I cook with it sometimes. I've got a few recipes that I make with
So
it.
funny how your palates change over time
a lot.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. Like, I remember tasting scotch when I was probably like 25 and thinking, why would anybody ever drink this? This is
well, even
horrific.
with wine. I remember in college the first time I had like decent wine, I was like, this doesn't taste like my Boone's.
Right.
I love Boone's,
Exactly.
you know, because you have like the sugar
the
palette.
sugar palette.
Yeah, no offense, Boone's. You're great.
You got
your place, babe. You got your place. You're the gateway drug into the wine industry.
But see, I didn't really have that. Isn't that funny? Like I didn't have that's again a whole different podcast. I did drink those when I was like 12, hanging out on the ranch with my grandparents. But once I started actually getting into wine,
from church
right,
to the farm,
to bucking bales of hay.
That's how I earn my Boone's.
But like in college, like I didn't, you couldn't catch me with a Midori sour. Like that's why I was drinking. I discovered, by the way, as a side note, aviation gin. I discovered in like 2009, before Ryan Reynolds took over, before it was really popular.
Yeah, you called Ryan and said,
right?
This
I
is
was
a
like,
great
Ryan,
investment.
you should get in on this. Yeah.
I wish. By the way, could you get him on the podcast? That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'll make a few phone calls. He's a little bit harder now that he's with
Blake.
But yeah.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, just went from wine to whiskey, and really, really happy that Women Who Whiskey exists.
Yes,
That's
I wanted to
favorites.
give them a shout out too.
Yeah.
So we both belong to Women Who Whiskey, which is, I tend to explain it because Risse and I also do a lot of networking together and a lot of women in business type situations. But Women Who Whiskey is our fun social club.
Yeah, it's not networking.
Not for business.
No.
Like it's just more, socializing.
Social.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've made some great friends through
Absolutely.
Women Who Whiskey. But I don't bring my business cards with me to Women Who Whiskey events. That's I call it my time. Like that's my time. That's when I get to go relax, not be mortgaged, and I ultimately end up talking about it because I am
it always pops up. Well, and I mean, our life is our life.
It is,
and people are gonna ask like, how's work?
Yeah,
so you have to like talk about it. But that's not the purpose. Like it's different when you're going to like a work networking thing, and you're there as Realtor Rashelle and Linda Risse. But there we just get to be Women Who Whiskey.
We do. And we
talk about our love for whiskey.
And we have gotten over the years to taste whiskeys that nobody else can taste. My husband gets pretty jealous sometimes when I'm sending him pictures of what I'm tasting because it's stuff that we can't get here in Oregon. We've got to meet some really amazing women behind the scenes in whiskey.
Yes.
At the time, this was a while ago, but the head distiller of Michter's was a woman, and she came out and did a tasting and education event for us.
Yeah.
Caitlin at Hood River Distillers has done a lot with us.
I was going to say the Uncle Nearest. We got to the owner and the head distiller came out from Tennessee.
They come out a couple times.
Yeah. Well, most recently was for the book launch and stuff. Yeah. Which now every time I'm in Tennessee, I'm like, how do I get over there? They're just like to go there in person is on my bucket list. Yeah, but they are one of my favorite bourbons too.
And I'll do a quick shout out while we're talking about bourbon to Maker's Mark. If people aren't super familiar with it, Maker's Mark is like the old school, like, when I used to wait tables in my 20s, like that was what the working dudes would come in and order, Maker's Mark. You can get it anywhere, which I love, but Maker's Mark is doing really fantastic things as a company. They're B Corp certified. They're really into regenerative agriculture. They have bees on their property. They have cows on their property. They're working
and I think people assume they just have the one variety too, and they have so many different age, different casts, different levels of I don't know if that's a proper term. Don't come for me.
Levels. Yeah,
don't come for me in the comments. I'm just a patron. I don't specialize in bourbon. If you want to teach me and be on the podcast, by all means.
Right,
but
exactly.
but they have like different varieties.
Definitely.
And like
age. Different series.
When you go out and order, I know sometimes I get wine. It's so funny when I'm with my wine friends and I'm just not in a wine mood.
Right.
And we're like out a bar or like I travel a lot for real estate and stuff for the different leadership conferences that I go to for Oregon realtors and things like that. And if I order just bourbon by itself, everyone's like, whoa, tough day. Right. And I'm like, no, I just like it. Well, and these people put so much time and energy and ingredients into their craft. Like, I don't want to add soda or a mixer or anything. I'm like this.
Enjoy it how it is.
This would be like insulting if you added to what we're drinking today. Like,
no 7 and 7s anymore. That's for sure. No,
We've matured. But do you
that.
ever get like people looking at you like, whoa?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Hardcore.
All the time. I've been called hardcore a lot over the years. And hilarious, wow, I don't know what the word is, but my husband, who's, 6'3", big dude, who also drinks bourbon, as we talked about, but when we go out, he orders the fruitiest cocktail.
Gosh. My guy too.
Does he? Yeah, like every single time.
Or he's like Fireball with everything, which no offense to Fireball, you're fine. But like, I'm not drinking a tumbler.
Yeah, exactly. Fireball. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's funny how often the server will come out and bring him the whiskey and put the cocktail in front of me, and he's always super offended. He's like, excuse me, like, she's the one drinking the whiskey.
Yeah. Please scooch my pina colada over here.
Exactly. Give me my umbrella. Yeah. He's like, give her the steak and the whiskey.
Yeah, same. This is why we're such good friends.
Right. Yeah. I've gotten that a lot. And I'm going to tell one really funny story, actually. I was in Montana a few years ago. I'm from Montana. My family's from Montana. And my grandma was a part of the American Legion. So, little tiny bar. And we went in there, and I asked, they only had one whiskey. I'm sure it was Jack Daniels, right?
Sure.
But I was like, can I just get a Jack neat? And the waitress immediately grabs a glass and puts ice in it and starts pouring it. And I'm like thinking to myself, it's fine. It's Jack Daniels.
Yeah,
but it's probably better with ice.
Yeah.
But she's pouring it, and then like halfway she pauses and she goes, oh, neat means no ice, right? And I was like, yeah, but it's fine. And she goes, I'm not used to these fancy drinks. I was like,
that's hilarious.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that my Jack. I'm like, I just want you to take it from that bottle and pour it into that cup right there.
Right. You're like, oh, I didn't know that was fancy. Yeah. We had a girls' weekend out at the coast, and there was like 8 of us. We walk into this like little hole in the wall bar. Yeah. Clearly, we weren't locals.
Right.
They knew as soon as we walked in. We weren't fooling anybody. But you saw the bartender be like, shit. Okay. As soon as we walked in, like, dang it. Yeah, exactly. And she even got the blender out.
She's like, all right.
And then we walked up, and I was there with Cindy, who you know. Yeah. And she's also a bourbon girl. Yeah. And so we walked in, and I was looking at the selection, and I was just like, oh, you know what? I think I'm just going to get Buffalo neat. And Cindy was like, me too. And then one of our other girlfriends was like, me 3. And the bartender's like, what?
Like, what's happening?
Yeah, she's like, I thought you guys would be in here ordering martinis and blended drinks, which they have their place and their purpose. I will get those. Yeah. But it was so funny, the label that was instantly put on us. Because we were city girls at the coast. Yep. And so they just assumed we'd be like, oh, pina coladas.
Right.
It's like,
exactly. It's
no, it's not that kind of coast. This is it's raining outside. It's the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
In January.
That's the best time to have a straight glass of bourbon.
Yes. So it was so funny. Yeah. And then like 2 of the other girls got just tequila. And I've just noticed, like, it's so funny. I was like, the older I get, the less mixers I want. I'm like, I just want to enjoy a really good glass of something.
What I really love to do is sit up at the bar, and especially because, we're super cool. And so we like to go when bars open at like 4 so that we can be home and in our sweats by 7.
Speak for yourself.
That's just the way I roll. And so sit up at the bar and start by ordering something, usually a whiskey or something, but it could be a tequila.
Totally.
I also am a big fan of some good tequilas. And once you start talking to the bartender and they realize that you have a decent palate and that you somewhat know what you're talking about, then they start pulling out the good stuff. And
or giving you my favorite samples. Word is splash.
A splash. Yeah.
I'm going to give you a little splash of this.
Yeah.
And you're like, thank you for all the splashes.
On Division on my birthday. And they God, what's the freaking... I don't even can't think what the spirit type is that they specialize in. It's not something that we drink very often. And the guy gave us probably 4 different tastings. And at one point he's like, I don't want to push it on you. And we're like, dude, no, push it on us. Why are we
not only
here?
Are you not pushing it on us, you're now becoming our best friend.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we bonded. We bonded. It's Connor, who's a Bears fan.
Thanks, Connor.
We're now, best friends because we're both Bears fans.
Yeah.
So I think that you just get a different experience when you sit at the bar and order something good, and you get the bartender's attention for sure.
Yeah. Well, and you learn more about things because you're not going to just randomly order a splash of something yourself. At least I'm not, especially if it's like a little bit more expensive. I always get a little bit more nervous. Like, well, what if I hate it when I just spent $20 on this small like little dram or whatever? And I know to some people they're like $20. That's adorable because you can easily spend like $200 on a dram or even more. But sometimes you just want to try something new. I don't want to end without giving a little shout out to one of our favorite local bars that we like to go get bourbon and whiskey at.
I love that. Let's do that. Who are you talking about? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. What little bar?
Who could that be?
Who
she's going to be so happy.
Yeah. So do you want to go ahead and give a shout out and I'll chime in?
Sure. Yeah. So you're obviously talking about Julie at Freeman's.
Yes, absolutely.
Freeman,
in Milwaukee.
It's directly on my way home from the office to my house. So, it's a very convenient location for me. Mm-hmm. Julie is the owner and she's fantastic. She's become a friend. Her and her partner, Carrie, have become friends. Two really great bartenders there, Ruby and Lindsay. So, and it's just a really fantastic, comfortable,
very chill and relaxed.
Very chill. I can stop in after a long
selection.
day. Great selection. Mm-hmm. She knows what she's doing.
She does normally have a game on, so if you want to go with a friend that loves sports, there's normally something going on.
She often has like old movies on.
Yeah, that is true. A lot of times there is an 80s movie on.
Yeah, there's an 80s movie.
But she will change the channel if there's a big game on.
Yeah, and like I love, I just go and bring my laptop on my way home and I'll stop and
whiskey
spend an hour there. And
I actually have a picture of Risse and I writing an offer. Right. Like working on, we were helping the same clients, obviously, and we were working on some other paperwork.
Saturday afternoon. It was at a Women Who Whiskey event. At Julie's.
Yeah.
Yeah, at Freeman, I should say. I always call it Julie's, but it's Freeman. Because it's on Freeman Way in Milwaukee. Freeman Barrel House. Check them out.
Yeah.
Good shout out.
Yeah, I wanted to give her a shout out because we do love going there. She does have a great, women owned, women operated, and great selection. So if you like,
really good cocktails. Like I am a very much a cocktail snob, and she's got some really good cocktails. And Lindsay and Ruby are both fantastic cocktail makers. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Good shout out.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your whiskey with me. By the way, now we have to go to Bull Run together.
We do. Yeah.
This was so delicious. I hadn't had this one that was in the Pinot Noir cast, and I think I have a new favorite.
It's a special kind of whiskey office that you can just come in at 9:30 in the morning and be like, what local whiskey do you have under there? And I'm like, well, let me pull a couple out and show you.
Yeah. Here we go.
This was a good choice for us.
We are recording for those of you that are like 9:30. We are recording in the morning today, and I always give my my guests the option, like, hey, we're recording a little early. If you want to have a sip, we can. If it makes you uncomfortable because it's early, that's fine with me too. I'm flexible, and we figured. Yeah. What the heck not?
Let's do it. For kicking off season 2. We can't kick it off without.
Right. I mean, St. Patrick's Day's around the corner. We're just channeling.
Just getting ready.
Our Irishness. So cheers, Risse.
Cheers, friend.
Thank you for being on.
Cheers to season 2.
Thank you. I'm very excited for season 2.
For you.
Thank you. For those of you listening, thank you so much for listening. And for those of you that watch, thanks for watching. Can't wait to see you next week. Cheers.